Shooting at Dallas ICE facility. One of the most prominent U.S. headlines today is the shooting at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) facility in Dallas, in which 3 people were shot, 2 of them detainees, and the shooter died by suicide. Authorities are treating it as a targeted act of violence, given that anti-ICE messages were found near the scene. Below is an in-depth examination, the facts, context, implications, and what to watch. What we know, key facts. Here's a summary of confirmed or strongly reported details so far. Detail what's known. When and where early morning, September 24, 2025, at an ICE detention facility near Love Field, Dallas, Texas. Casualties: 3 people were shot. 1 died at the scene, another later at hospital, and a third was injured. The shooter died by suicide. No ICE agents or law enforcement were reported among the injured. Method/positioning: the shots appear to have come from an adjacent building, possibly from a rooftop or elevated position. Motive: investigators found shell casings with anti-ICE messages, suggesting an ideological or targeted motive. Investigation: the FBI is treating it as targeted violence. Given the technicalities, sniper-style, messaging, targeting ICE, this is not being viewed as a random act but possibly ideologically driven. Why this matters: political, security, and social context. 1. Immigration and ICE as a flashpoint. ICE and immigration enforcement are highly polarizing in U.S. politics. For many, ICE represents enforcement of border laws. For critics, it symbolizes harsh immigration policies and humanitarian concerns. Violent attacks on ICE installations magnify tensions around debates on immigration, enforcement, and civil rights. That this occurred at a detention facility adds seriousness. Detainees, often vulnerable populations, were targeted. The fact that no law enforcement personnel were harmed but detainees were suggests a possible motive focused on detainees or ICE policies. 2. Domestic political ramifications. Rhetoric escalation. In a highly polarized environment, such violent incidents can inflame rhetoric on both sides. Supporters of stricter immigration enforcement may argue for more security, while critics will highlight risks of targeting marginalized groups. Security and threat assessment. This incident intensifies scrutiny on how vulnerable government installations are, especially ones associated with contentious policies like immigration enforcement. Public opinion and policy pressure. Such an attack may shift public opinion, provoke legislative responses, or be used as justification for further crackdowns or reforms. 3. Law enforcement, investigations and response. The fact that the FBI is treating this as a targeted act means resources will go into motive, background of the shooter, whether there were accomplices, and whether this signals further threats. Authorities must balance transparency, reporting to the public, with preventing copycat violence or further escalations. 4. Safety of detainees and human rights concerns. This incident raises serious concerns about detainee protection. In a detention facility, many are in custody and unable to defend themselves or move freely. This heightens the state's responsibility to protect them. Broader context and precedents. To understand the significance, it helps to look at broader patterns and precedents. Other attacks/threats to government facilities. In recent years, there have been attacks or threats against federal institutions, e.g. IRS offices, Social Security, courts. This adds to that pattern. Political violence and polarization. The U.S. has seen rising concern over politically motivated violence in recent years, including attacks against political figures, violent protests, and threats against law enforcement. Immigration enforcement as a flashpoint. ICE has been a central figure in many controversies: family separation policies, detention conditions, raids. That makes such facilities symbolic and vulnerable to protests or attacks. Messaging and extremism. The anti-ICE messaging in shell casings raises questions about extremist motivations, whether from radical activists, lone actors, or organized groups.